I was praying one day, lying on the floor in my hotel room in Grenada, and I was so discouraged. A young man, way back in the early 60s, I felt so down. Now, I'm laying on the floor and I'm having a little talk with God. And how many of you know just a little talk with Jesus will make everything all right? So, anyhow, I'm talking to the big man. I'm talking to God. And I'm so discouraged. And God speaks to me, not audibly, but he speaks into my spirit. And he says to me, Morris, I love you. Why are you so discouraged? The whole island is coming out. The place is turned upside down. The deaf are hearing. The crippled are walking. Thousands are getting saved every night. And you're sitting there, lying on the floor, so discouraged. I said, yeah, I'm discouraged. God said, why? I said, I don't know. Does this sound like you? Are we kind of alike? Huh? Ever do that? You get discouraged and then you try to find out the reason why you're discouraged, and you don't know why you're discouraged. I had my Bible alongside of me, and I'm hugging my Bible, and I said, you know, God, I said, look at all these wonderful people in the Bible. I said, if I could just be like one of them, I would be so happy. Anybody ever look at somebody in the Bible and wish you could be like them? Huh? Well, I'm glad I'm not alone. So God says to me, who would you like to be like? Now, I'm a young man, remember, way back in the early 60s. I said, anybody, God? God said, yeah, tell me who. I said, I'd like to be like Moses. Good choice, huh? And God said, why do you want to be like him for? Tell me. I said, well, look at him. I said, Moses was so meek and so tender. And I said, look at the experiences of Moses' life. And I said, look at me, Lord. I said, I'm not as meek, I'm not as humble as I ought to be. Anybody ever feel like that? You're not as humble as you ought to be? Ever feel like that? So God said to me, Mars, my name means Moses. In the Hebrew, Moshe, Mars, Moshe means Moses. So that was kind of a slip of the tongue. But he said to me, son, have you ever directly disobeyed me? And I started to think, and I said, no. I cannot remember a time in my life, even now 63 years later, when God asked me to do something, no matter how hard, no matter how difficult, no matter what the price was, I never, ever have said no. Now, you just missed a good, no, too late. God said to me, Moses did. As great a man as he was, and as much as I revealed myself to him, talked to him, saw my presence, disobeyed me. God said, so much was this act, I didn't let him go into the promised land. Can you imagine that? After all Moses went through, and after all he did for God, You know what God said to me? I'm lying on the floor, crying. He said to me, next. This is a real experience. I said, all right, Lord, because there's a lot of great things about Moses, but this was just that one time. So I said, okay, Lord, forget Moses. I said, let me be like Abraham. God said, Abraham? Now, Morris, why do you want to be like Abraham? I said, well, God, look at Abraham's life. I said, man, this man had a masterful faith. And God said to me, do you love Teresa? I said, Teresa? I said, what has my love for Teresa got to do with my strong desire to have faith like Abraham? Because I don't have enough faith. Oh, come on now. Any honest hands in this building? How many of you have ever said to God, I don't have enough faith? So God said to me, do you love Teresa? I said, of course I love Teresa. He said, what would you do if a knock come on your door in the middle of the night? And you opened the door, and there stood 3 big, husky, strong men, and they barged their way into your house, and they said to you, give us your wife. For a moment, I forgot I was talking to God. I said, you know, I'm thinking, you're God, and you don't know what I would do. I told him, I said, you know what I'd do. I'd pick up the nearest chair, anything I could get in my hands. I said, I'll kill him. I said, Christian or no Christian, make no difference. I'll kill him. God said, I know, Marsh, you would do that. But he said, Abraham didn't. I said, what do you mean? He said he gave his wife away to a ruler to sleep with her so he could try to protect his life. And God said, if I didn't come and intervene in that experience, I would have had to wipe out the whole nation. So all of a sudden, lying on that floor, I thought, well, maybe I don't want to be like Abraham. You know, we want to be like people until you find out some of their weaknesses. Oh, don't look at me with that look. People are not the things that we're supposed to follow, but we do anyhow. You missed a good place to say amen. It's all right. It's all right. So, now God speaks to me again. He says, next. You would have thought that 2 times, you know, I had enough. But no, because we're human, right? We're human. And I said, all right, God, I said, give me one more chance. He said, all right, who? I said, let me be like David. Yeah, you know the answer to that, don't you? God said, what do you want to be like David for? I said, because look at David, look at the Psalms. I said, he had a heart that panted after you. I said, God, I don't love you enough. I don't search for you enough. I don't cry out for you enough. Anybody here ever say that to God? Well, you know what God told me about David, don't you? He said, you ever kill anybody? I said, no. Does he ever take anybody else's wife? I said, no. He kept going on and on and on. He said, David did, David did, David did. Now, can you imagine? Here I am, a young man, chosen by God, thrust into the nations of the world. I am conducting crusades that are shaking entire cities, lying on the floor in desperation. And I started to cry. I said, I understand, God, what you're trying to tell me. It's not who we are. It's not what we possess, but it's what God